December 19th, 1944. 6:23 hours. Woods outside Neuville, Belgium. The cold within the turret of una Ropeteria. Klaus Vendel's Panther was a physical presence, a metallic, biting chill that seeped through layers of wool and leather. His gloved fingers, numb and clumsy, fumbled with a small, frozen pencil as he scrawled an entry in his personal journal. Each puff of his breath crystallized into a fleeting cloud in the dim, cramped interior, the only sign of life in the steel cocoon. "The Americans have a new hunter," he wrote, the words jagged. "We hear them, but never see them. They are phantoms in the fog. By the time we can even begin to traverse our turret, they have vanished. 3 of our Tigers destroyed yesterday alone." Through the frost-rimed vision blocks of his commander's cupola, Vendel scanned the pre-dawn gloom of the Ardennes forest. The towering, snow-laden firs stood as silent sentinels in the darkness. But he knew, with a growing, instinctual dread, that somewhere beyond that stark tree line, the hunters were already stirring. Elements of the U.S. 75th Tank Destroyer Battalion were moving their M18 Hellcats into ambush positions, their engines whispering low compared to the deep-throated rumble of German panzers. Unbeknownst to Vendel, in exactly 17 minutes, his entire understanding of armored warfare, a doctrine painstakingly perfected by the Wehrmacht over 5 years of brutal conflict, would be irrevocably shattered by an American vehicle that flagrantly violated every principle of tank-on-tank combat. The machine Vendel commanded, the Panther Ausf G, represented the zenith of German military engineering, a masterpiece of weight, firepower, and methodical destruction. Its long-barreled 75mm KWK-42 cannon could punch through the frontal armor of any American tank at a staggering 2,000 meters. Its own sloped frontal glacis, 80mm thick and angled to perfection, could confidently deflect the majority of shells fired by Allied tanks. It was heavy, powerful, and deliberate. Yet, within the first 3 minutes of the impending contact, Vendel would bear witness to the fiery destruction of multiple German armored vehicles, not by a superior brute, but by machines moving at a pace German armor could not hope to match even on paved roads, let alone the frozen, broken terrain of the Ardennes. The Battle of the Bulge was entering its critical 4th day. Across the vast, frozen forests of Belgium and Luxembourg, veteran German tank crews and fresh replacements alike were confronting a terrifying and unfamiliar reality. The Americans had not simply built another tank, they had engineered a Predator that operated on a fundamentally different tactical wavelength. It did not seek to overpower through sheer mass or outlast through impenetrable armor. Instead, it hunted with a weapon the Germans had dangerously underestimated: sheer, unadulterated speed, a velocity on the battlefield that defied their imagination of what was survivable. Genesis of a hunter, a radical American doctrine. The genesis of the M18 Hellcat can be traced back to the immediate aftermath of the attack on Pearl Harbor as America mobilized for a global war. While German tank doctrine, heavily influenced by the brutal experiences on the Eastern Front, evolved towards the principle of overwhelming firepower and maximum protection, a philosophy that gave birth to 45-ton Panthers and the nearly 70-ton Königstiger, King Tiger, American military thinkers took a radically different path. Under the directive of General Leslie McNair, the Tank Destroyer Force was formally established on November 27, 1941. Its foundational principle, meticulously documented in Field Manual FM 18-5, was a simple, aggressive triad: seek, strike, and destroy. The emphasis was unequivocal. Speed and firepower were paramount. Armor protection was a secondary, almost incidental concern. The vehicle destined to embody this philosophy to its most extreme conclusion was the M18, designated T-70 during its development. Its design specifications would have been considered suicidal by German tank designers, who viewed heavy armor as synonymous with battlefield survival. The contract was awarded to the Buick Motor Division in Flint, Michigan. a facility sometimes confused with the nearby Fisher Body plant that built Sherman tanks, but distinct in its purpose. In January 1942, Chief Engineer Joseph Roberts and his team were presented with a seemingly contradictory challenge. Mount a powerful 76mm high-velocity gun capable of defeating any known German armor, maintain a low, easily concealable silhouette, and achieve a road speed exceeding 50 miles per hour, all while keeping the total vehicle weight under 20 tons. The engineering solution they devised was a direct affront to conventional tank design wisdom. To achieve the required lightness and speed, armor was sacrificed almost entirely. The M18's protection was meager at best, a mere 25.4 millimeters on the turret front and a paltry 12.7 millimeters on the hull front, barely sufficient to stop heavy machine gun fire and utterly futile against cannon shells. A German 80-mm projectile wouldn't just penetrate the Hellcat. It would likely pass clean through both sides of its thin-skinned hull without even detonating. This was not an oversight. It was a deliberate, calculated trade-off. The design prioritized mobility above all else, creating what historians would later certify as the fastest tracked armored fighting vehicle of the entire Second World War. Baptism by fire. From Normandy to the Ardennes. The first M18 Hellcats arrived in the European theater in early 1944 with the 894th Tank Destroyer Battalion, first testing them in the tough fighting in Italy. However, it was during the breakout from the Normandy beachhead in the summer of 1944 that German tank crews first encountered their nightmare made manifest. On July 29, 1944, near Coutances, France, elements of German heavy tank battalions began reporting disturbing and disorienting engagements. They described encounters with American tank destroyers that delivered killing blows and then disappeared into the landscape before their gunners could even traverse their turrets to return fire. German after-action reports from this period documented these phantom vehicles, noting their incredible estimated speeds of over 80 kilometers per hour across rough terrain, with total engagement times, from first shot to last sighting, often lasting less than 180 seconds. The mathematics of this new form of combat were simple, brutal, and terrifying from a German perspective. A Panther tank's turret, for instance, required a ponderous 60 seconds to complete a full 360-degree rotation using its hydraulic traverse. Its maximum speed was 34 km on a good road and often as low as 15 miles cross-country. In stark contrast, the M18 Hellcat could accelerate from a standstill to 30 mph in just 7 seconds, maintain a governed speed of 55 mph on roads and nearly 60 without its governor, and sustain 26 mph across broken ground. In the 3 minutes it took a proficient German crew to identify a threat, rotate their massive turret, acquire the target in their sights, and fire, a Hellcat could displace nearly 1.5 miles, having already fired multiple rounds and relocated to a completely new firing position. The fear this instilled was not irrational. The Hellcat's 76mm M1A2 gun, while unable to penetrate the thick frontal armor of a Panther or Tiger with standard M62 APCBC ammunition, could easily slice through their 40-50mm side armor at ranges up to 1,500 meters. Furthermore, with the introduction of the scarce M93 HVAP, high-velocity armor-piercing, tungsten core rounds, of which crews might receive only 1 or 2 per month, penetration values could reach an incredible 157 millimeters at 500 yards. The gun's muzzle velocity of 2,600 feet per second meant the shell would arrive on target before the sound of the shot itself, adding to the confusion and psychological shock. A clash of doctrines and industrial might. This new American weapon system directly attacked the core of German armored doctrine. German training emphasized methodical engagement from static or hull-down positions, careful target acquisition, deliberate aiming, and conservation of valuable ammunition. The Panther and Tiger were perfect instruments for this doctrine, heavily armored mobile fortresses designed for slow, steady advancement and delivering devastating blows from a distance. The Hellcat, and the crews trained to use it, shattered this paradigm. At the sprawling Camp Hood, later Fort Hood, in Texas, the dedicated tank destroyer tactical and firing center trained M18 crews to a new standard. Their mantra was, "Speed is life." They were drilled relentlessly to never remain in a firing position for more than 30 seconds after unleashing their shot. Where German doctrine emphasized the single, decisive blow, American tank destroyer doctrine preached the constant, fluid motion of shoot and scoot. This philosophical divergence was underpinned by an unbridgeable chasm in industrial production. Between July 1943 and October 1944, Buick's Flint plant produced exactly 2507 M18 Hellcats. While this was far fewer than originally planned, this modest output still eclipsed German production of their complex heavy tanks. While Germany struggled to produce 90 Panthers per month by late 1944, the United States had already completed its entire Hellcat production run. This disparity meant that every lost Panther or Tiger was a devastating, often irreplaceable blow to German armored strength, whereas American commanders could absorb losses and rapidly replace them. The M18's mechanical heart was its Wright R-975 radial engine, a power plant originally designed for aircraft. This 9-cylinder engine provided phenomenal power-to-weight ratio. Early production vehicles used the R-975C1, producing 350 horsepower, while later models received the supercharged R-975C4, generating 400 horsepower. This, combined with the vehicle's weight of between 17.7 and 20 tons, created a power-to-weight ratio of 20 to 22.5 horsepower per ton, dwarfing the Panther's 15 HP ton. The Hellcat's hydromatic automatic transmission allowed drivers to maintain maximum power while maneuvering, a critical advantage over German tanks that required skilled manual shifting and clutch operation. Furthermore, its ground pressure of just 10.5 psi was lower than many wheeled vehicles, allowing it to glide over mud and snow that would immobilize a 57-ton Tiger I's 15.2 psi or a 69.8-ton Tiger II. Proving grounds, Arracourt and the Bulge. The Hellcats doctrine found its first large-scale validation during the Operation Cobra breakout in August 1944. But it was at the Battle of Arracourt, fought from September 18th to 29th, 1944, that its potential was starkly demonstrated. Here, the 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, attached to the 4th Armored Division, faced elements of the German 113th Panzer Brigade in conditions of heavy fog that should have favored the static German defenders. In a series of close-range, chaotic actions, M18 platoons achieved staggering results. In one notable engagement, Lieutenant Edwin Leiper's platoon destroyed 5 German tanks in 5 minutes, losing only 1 Hellcat. The overall tally for the 704th at Arracourt was a lopsided 39 German tanks destroyed for the loss of only 4 M18s, a kill ratio of nearly 10.1 that powerfully validated the seek, strike, destroy concept. However, the M18 Hellcat's most legendary proving ground would be the frozen forests of the Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge. The 75th Tank Destroyer Battalion, described by General Andrew D. Bruce as the finest tank destroyer battalion yet trained, rushed to the defense of the besieged crossroads town of Bastogne, providing critical mobile firepower for the encircled 101st Airborne Division. It was in the desperate fighting around the village of Noville on December 19th and 20th that the Hellcats' advantages became most apparent. As German panzers advanced through the fog and snow, they were met by agile packs of M18s from battalions like the 609th and the 705th. In a stunning display of tactical prowess, one platoon from the 609th destroyed 14 German tanks while losing only a single Hellcat. The combined Hellcat forces around Noville helped annihilate at least 30 German tanks over 2 days, inflicting hundreds of casualties and, most critically, achieving a 48-hour delay that proved vital to the overall defense of Bastogne. The 75th Battalion would later receive a Presidential Unit Citation for its actions. On Christmas Day alone, the 75th destroyed 27 German tanks for the loss of 6 M18s. Throughout the siege, they maintained an incredible kill ratio of approximately 6.7-1, the anatomy of an asymmetrical victory. The Hellcat's success was not a fluke, but the result of a coherent system that leveraged American advantages in several key areas. Strategic and tactical mobility. The M18's lightweight meant it could cross virtually any bridge in Europe that could support a truck, while German heavy tanks were confined to specific, often targeted routes with Class 70 bridges. This allowed Hellcats to appear in the German rear with devastating effect. Mechanical reliability. The Hellcat's aircraft-derived engine and automotive-based components were robust and easy to maintain. In the sub-zero temperatures of the Ardennes, they started reliably, while German tanks, with their complex engines and transmissions, frequently broke down or required lengthy warm-up periods. Superior crew training and communications, Hellcat crews were trained for initiative and high-speed engagements at dedicated facilities like Camp Hood. Every M18 was equipped with reliable radio sets, allowing platoons to coordinate wolf pack tactics in real time, attacking from multiple directions simultaneously. German crews, especially by late 1944, often fought in communicative isolation. Psychological impact. The Hellcat's speed created a sense of omnipresence and invulnerability. German commanders became hesitant, wasting precious hours on reconnaissance to confirm the absence of Hellcats before committing their armor, thereby sacrificing the very initiative their offensive was built upon. The final accounting and lasting legacy. By the end of the war, M18 Hellcat units had achieved the highest confirmed kill-to-loss ratio of any American armored vehicle in World War II. Overall, 526 enemy armored vehicles were destroyed, at the cost of 216 M18s lost to enemy fire, a ratio of 2.4.1. In Europe specifically, the ratio was 2.3.1, with some battalions like the 601st achieving ratios as high as 23.1. The supreme irony of the Hellcat story is that German doctrine itself created the conditions for its success. By building ever heavier, more complex super tanks, the Germans created the perfect slow-moving, road-bound targets for the Hellcats' high-speed flanking tactics. The pursuit of an invulnerable fortress had blinded them to the threat of a nimble, fast-striking cavalry. The M18 Hellcat proved that victory in warfare does not always belong to the strongest or the best protected, but often to the most adaptable, the most mobile, and the most effectively employed. It was a testament to American industrial pragmatism over German engineering monumentalism. For crews like Klaus Wendel's, those 3 minutes of terrifying, high-velocity combat taught a brutal, final lesson. Sometimes the best armor is simply not to be where the enemy is aiming, and the most powerful weapon on the battlefield is not the largest gun, but the one that strikes from an unexpected direction and vanishes before retaliation is even possible. In those 3 minutes lay the difference between the past and the future of armored warfare.